A girl was about to be executed by her brother when her sister, who she has mistreated, came to bid farewell. Seeing the sister's kindness, the girl was filled with guilt and wanted to apologize for the first time in her life. But her sister's face suddenly turned malicious. Smiling coldly, she whispered in the girl's ear, "Sister, you're so stupid, framing me, pushing me down the stairs, and poisoning me. All these things you did to me were actually instigated by the maids, right? But everything was orchestrated by me, just to make everyone hate you. From the moment you and your mother came to my house, I wanted to kill you both. Your mother's death was also caused by my poison. Though I don't know what you're thinking right now, but seeing your pained expression makes me so happy. Goodbye. My foolish sister Aria, I'll miss you." Aria was utterly shocked. She never imagined that the innocent sister she always bullied was actually this evil. Before she could think more or say anything, the executioner's blade descended, and her life came to an end. In her final moments, she silently prayed to heaven to just give her one more chance, a chance to expose this despicable sister's schemes and save her mother. As her consciousness faded, she suddenly heard the sharp sound of a glass shattering and regained her senses. She found herself at home, with all her family members seated around the dining table. Her mother, who should have been dead, was right in front of her eyes, scolding her for breaking a glass. Her hypocritical sister Mielle was innocently worrying about her being hurt. She realized that her dying wish had come true. She has returned to past. Looking at her so-called kind sister, she made a vow in her heart. This time she would not let her sister's schemes succeed. She will pay her in kind. Since her sister had gone to such lengths to paint her as a villainess, she would show her what a true villainess looks like. Registering her father's presence at dinner table, Aria recited a poem showing off to her sister and declaring war. Her father was both surprised and delighted. Seeing his usually troublesome eldest daughter was finally taking an interest in studying, he praised her. This time Aria wants to develop a positive image in her father's eyes and win his favor. On the surface, Mielle applauded for Aria but couldn't handle seeing her sister being praised, and casually mentioned that she herself could recite it as just a 4-year-old child. Aria eagerly anticipated her next move, and sure enough, as expected, Mielle, just to make trouble for Aria, said that there was a companion poem to this one which Aria probably didn't know, and to show off she recited it perfectly. However, as she was reciting it, the dining room fell into silence. It was a forbidden poem cursing the family. In her previous life, when Aria had recited just a few lines of the same poem, her brother had berated her harshly. But this time, when Mielle was the one reciting it, though his face darkened, he remained silent. Father, defending the sister, said that she was still young and didn't know better. Indeed, at this moment their hearts still favored the good girl of the family. But Aria was not upset about this outcome. Instead, she was quite satisfied. This was just the beginning. She will destroy her sister bit by bit. She immediately started demonstrating her recently learned table manners, appearing as a dignified lady. Father saw this and praised her again, but her sister, out of jealousy, started to make some passive-aggressive comments. Smiling, she spoke. "So sister's previous messy eating was due to not knowing etiquette. I always thought the servants just brought your food in a messy state." Aria didn't feel angry. Instead, she appeared wistful and replied, "So you're saying that the servants deliberately didn't arrange my food properly because Mother and I are outsiders? That can't be. It was truly just my personal problem, though I never expected my sister, who is known as a saint, to think so ill of others." Such a clever remark rendered her sister speechless. She trembled with anger, but to maintain her image could only apologize, saying she had spoken thoughtlessly, ending Aria's day in satisfaction. Aria was telling her teacher Sarah about last night's events, and suddenly changing the subject, she begged to learn embroidery, hoping to use this opportunity for her revenge plan. Teacher happily taught her. After finishing the lily embroidery, she again asked to learn how to embroider roses. Her plan was to steal Mielle's fiancé. Sarah was awry and tried to probe her indirectly, but Aria played dumb, making Sarah completely let down her guard. Thinking back to the past, by this point in time Aria had no achievements, while her sister Mielle had a great reputation and was always currying favor with father. People often compared the two, due to which Aria had subconsciously accepted the fact that her sister was better than her, making Aria always feel inferior. Once again at the dining table, family was sitting and chatting when Mielle suggested developing the leather industry to her father. Many noble ladies like to use leather as corset material. Father found it interesting. But Aria didn't think so. Having experienced future, she knows that the leather never became popular due to its complex maintenance issues and strong odor. The maids noticed Aria wanting to speak and couldn't help but whisper among themselves. After all, for everyone, Aria was just a naive fool who knew nothing about the world. But when Aria finally spoke, she shocked them. She proposed to develop fur industry instead of leather. Not only she compared the advantages and disadvantages of fur and leather but also spoke about fur's development prospects. After careful consideration, father agreed with Aria's reasoning, but wondering how a teenage girl knows so much about such a topic, he asked Aria about her source of information. Aria simply said she couldn't remember. Father immediately sent people to verify the information's accuracy. Meanwhile, Mielle, realizing her sister had stolen the spotlight again, offered father her childhood hairpin, trying to regain attention. A few days later, after confirming the information's accuracy, father decided to invest in the fur industry. While he was leaving for work, Aria gave her father a handkerchief embroidered with delicate patterns. Everyone couldn't help but marvel at the beautiful work and praised her. Aria proudly turned to Mielle. "Dear sister, would you like me to make you a handkerchief too?" Mielle was deeply hurt, her face turning extremely unpleasant. She began learning embroidery like her sister, but the teacher she hired wasn't as skilled as Aria's. Meanwhile, Aria's mother mentioned Mielle's love interest while chatting with her. If they could win over Oscar home, they would enjoy all the glory and wealth. Gradually, mother and daughter's thoughts aligned. Aria again resolved to destroy Mielle. Her brother went to school and her sister spent her day embroidering. Teacher Sarah came to visit, inviting Aria to a tea party. She wanted to show off her adorable student to all the other ladies. Aria thought for a moment and agreed to attend, but there was one big problem. She needs a proper attire for the party, but her wardrobe was rather childish. She suddenly had a clever idea. She deliberately set her wardrobe on fire. When servants arrived to deal with the fire, she quickly put on a pitiful act, packaging herself as the poor victim. Looking at the burned clothes, her mother told her to borrow a dress from Mielle for now and later go shopping. Although Mielle was unwilling, she still had to comply to avoid gossip. In Mielle's wardrobe, Aria deliberately found the dress gifted by Oscar to Mielle at her last birthday. Mielle panicked, wondering how her sister knew about this dress's existence, unwilling to let Aria wear it, but if she didn't, lend her saintly image would suffer. Mielle reluctantly agreed and Aria happily took it. The maid Jessie informed Aria that her hourglass had been repaired. This hourglass was found broken by Aria when she time traveled. Aria took a carriage to town to retrieve the repaired hourglass and came upon the street was where she died, making her chest tightened. The carriage stopped in front of a clothing store. She bought up all the desirable clothes and left happily. At the entrance, Aria saw two children selling newspapers and remembered her tragic childhood. There was a boy named Hans who had been close to her, but he had been killed by a hit-and-run carriage while selling newspapers. She immediately ordered Jessie to buy all newspapers and paid them a month's wages in advance, instructing that any new papers should also be bought. Looking at the newspapers, one headline caught her attention. It was about the Crown Prince exposing slavery. She thought if she could ally with someone like that, her revenge would surely be within reach. Ignoring such thoughts, Aria went to the repair shop. Seeing the hourglass fully restored, Aria was overjoyed and immediately paid double the price. Just then a hooded figure approached her, making her whole body shuddered, feeling inexplicable fear, but then she calmed herself down and realized that he was just another customer. She noticed the gambling house entry ticket on the owner's desk. Perhaps out of gratitude for fixing her hourglass, Aria actually suggested the owner sell the ticket because the Crown Prince would soon shut down the gambling houses. At that point, the high-priced entry tickets would be worthless. Hearing this, the shop owner was bewildered, but the hooded person circled around, quickly subduing the guards, and grabbed Aria's hand, asking what she meant by those words. Under the black hood, a handsome face was clearly visible. Aria gazed at him, lost in thought. Those familiar eyes sparked some blurry memories, and she felt like she had seen this man somewhere before. Seeing her silence, the man prepared to make his move, but Aria hastily made up an excuse, saying Baron Lupel had suffered heavy losses and planned to sell the casino and flee, and heard some rumors. The man was suspicious but let Aria go. Watching her disappearing figure, the man's attendant mistook Aria for Mielle. "Is that Mielle?" the attendant murmured. "The name means honeybee," the mysterious man thought, "but it doesn't suit this lady. She seems so familiar. Have I seen her somewhere before?" The attendant offered to investigate further, but he declined. They still had work to do. Later, when he recalled everything about haughty girl he met, a lingering warmth remained on his hand that wouldn't fade. Meanwhile, Aria returned home. She was furious about the poor performance of her two guards. She wanted to mock them, but to win them over, served them tea and encouraged them. The effect was unexpectedly good. Her quick thinking gained her two loyal servants. However, Aria was still shaken at the thought of the mysterious man she met earlier. She told herself it would be best not to meet him again. On the other side, the very man gathered his forces, taking over the casino Aria mentioned. That night Sarah visited to inform Aria about the tea party. Noble girls usually exchange handmade gifts at these parties. Since Aria excelled at embroidery, so she could make handkerchiefs to build relationships with other noble ladies. This gift-giving custom also existed among family members. However, Mielle and Aria's relationship was not cordial. They were more like rivals, neither yielding to the other, but Aria had a thought: she should show off her skills to Mielle. Under Sarah's guidance, Aria made a handkerchief with the imperial pattern and gave it to Mielle to mock her. When seeing the handkerchief, Mielle's expression turned ugly. Faced with a sister several times more skilled than herself in embroidery, she felt humiliated and could only make excuses to hurriedly leave. The day of the tea party arrived. Aria went planning to be cautious with her words and actions to avoid repeating past tragedies. Though her two guards were a little wary of her, Aria cheerfully smiled to lower their guard. Throughout the journey, Aria felt uneasy, as if something major was about to happen, but she reached safely. Aria made her entrance, attracting everyone's attention. Looking at her simple and modest attire, the noble ladies began whispering among themselves. They didn't find Aria as unrefined as rumored. Her elegant demeanor was endearing, and soon her tragic circumstances garnered sympathy. Aria established herself as a pitiful while painting Mielle as absolutely villainous. She then distributed her handmade handkerchiefs to everyone, completely winning over the noble ladies. Many even offered to take her out to market to entertain, but someone voiced opposition. Recently, Baron Lupel had been involved in gambling and human trafficking, making it unsafe outside. He even managed to evade the usually cautious crown prince and ran away. Aria's heart jumped hearing such news, wondering if her actions had affected the crown prince's plans. Though this matter wasn't part of her revenge plan, she couldn't ignore it. After the tea party ended, she quickly sent her subordinate John to investigate whereabouts of the Baron. Worried he would surely face Miss Aria's ridicule, with John entered a repair shop. He inquired about the Baron but suddenly fainted. The owner had drugged his water, suspicious of his intention. From the shadows the same mysterious man appeared. He was the crown prince. They mistook John as Baron Lupel's accomplice, so they had him investigated secretly. Suddenly, hearing sounds from outside, they rushed to check. John returned unable to learn anything useful. As expected, Aria's face darkened with anger. Yesterday Baron Lupel was arrested at an inn near the casino. He had wandered around the casino all day yet achieved nothing. What a useless person, Aria sighed, thinking. But thankfully everything was back to how it was supposed to be, so she can resume her own plans. Aria requested her mother hire additional tutors to learn more skills. She remembered how in the future many tried to curry favor with her, but upon learning that she'd been abandoned by her family, they all eventually leave. Right now was the perfect time to expand her circle and make connections. Various tutors began visiting her, though their fawning does put her under some pressure, but it also helped greatly with her lessons. Her ultimate goal was to steal Oscar, and imagining Mielle's anguished expression, Aria couldn't help but smile. Seeing her happy expression, Sarah quickly asked what had happened, and Aria told her about her recent activities. Though I have multiple teachers, you're still my favorite, Aria spoke, smiling. Sarah was overjoyed to hear this, but little did she know about Aria's grand plan. While Mielle frowned, seeing she still couldn't match her sister in embroidery. Just as Aria was feeling pleased, a commotion arose outside. She quickly sent Jessie to check and went to sleep. Aria woke up feeling famished. She opened the door and walked downstairs, only to find the outside unusually quiet. Without waiting for Jessie's return, she went to the living room and discovered that they had a visitor, Oscar, the man her sister admired. Seizing the opportunity, she made her presence known. Mielle flustered from her appearance, unwillingly inviting her to dine with them. Aria agreed and went to get dressed. With carefully refined looks, she made a dazzling entrance, much to Oscar's surprise. Even her brother Cain blushed looking at her, his heart racing. Faced with this unwelcomed guest, Mielle felt an unprecedented sense of crisis. Oscar and Aria began chatting, ignoring Mielle. Seeing her spotlight stolen by her sister, Mielle quickly jumped into the conversation, praising the clothes Oscar had given her. Cain hurriedly tried to help, hoping to arrange for Oscar and Mielle to go shopping together, but his plan backfired. Instead, Oscar suggested him to go with Mielle. The siblings panicked, Mielle quickly speaking, how can they leave the guest alone, but Oscar replied that he has Miss Aria to accompany him. Looking at her sister, Mielle trembled with anger. If she could, she would never leave Aria with Oscar alone. Aria immediately arranged to send the siblings away while she helped Oscar settle in for the night. Back in her room, Aria danced with excitement while Jessie looked somewhat exasperated, quickly asking what should be done with the stored handkerchief. Aria thought her sister might try to give Oscar a handkerchief, so she carried one too, but it was not required. Secretly rejoicing, she opening her book to preview the next lesson's content, but was disgusted by the noble's history. Tired, she went to the garden for some fresh air. Just as she was about to water the flowers above the door, Oscar opened it and the water poured on his head, wetting him completely. Aria hurriedly apologized, but Oscar didn't mind. He even stepped forward and grabbed her hands. Aria was overwhelmed with anxiety. She couldn't make any mistakes or it might ruin her revenge plan. Lost in thought, she began crying. Oscar quickly tried to comfort her. His actions revealed his soft-hearted character, who couldn't bear to see a woman cry, so Aria took advantage of the fact, offering him the handkerchief she carried. Oscar took it and used it, but when he saw the pattern on the handkerchief he was surprised. "Isn't this my family crest?" he asked. Aria quickly explained that she found Frederick family crest truly beautiful and embroidered it, as he, from the same family, happened to be her first guest. "This all seems like destiny." Oscar thought for a moment but took the handkerchief. Aria smiled happily, ordering Jessie to prepare the bath water. After bidding farewell to her, Oscar felt a wave of different emotions developing, some feelings for this beautiful young lady. Soon it was dinner time. Brother Kane and Mielle also returned from their outing. They had prepared a gift for Oscar, a pack of 3 pen nibs. Oscar was not interested in such gifts but still politely thanked them. Aria observed the threes, initially wanting to cause trouble over the handkerchief but held back. Instead, she put on a pitiful expression, earning concerns from Oscar. He quickly inquired about her condition with concern. Mielle's face turned red with anger. The fork even fell from her hand and she barely managed her emotions throughout the dinner. Next day, Oscar and Kane returned to the academy. Hearing Oscar's news, Aria's mother rushed back from the neighboring country, but he had already left, making her somewhat disappointed. Fortunately, Aria played her cards well, as when they received his return gifts amidst everyone's discussion, the butler announced there was also a gift for Miss Aria. Mielle was stunned while Aria quickly said, "Perhaps it's because he accepted my handkerchief." Mielle was extremely embarrassed, hoping to save face, and asked Aria to read the letter that came with the gift, but she refused to read the letter's contents but opened the gift. There was a set of clothes. Unimpressed, she only took the hairpin that came along and left for her tea party. At the tea party, she presented embroidered handkerchiefs to several noble ladies, earning their praise. After some small talk, the tea party concluded. When Aria was about to enter her carriage, she immediately noticed the unfamiliar coachman, quickly sending someone to verify his identity. He was an old coachman from the mansion, now nearly retired. Aria angrily questioned why she wasn't informed about the changes. She almost went into the carriage. Aria swallowed nervously. She knew if she had used the carriage just now she would probably be dead. It seemed Mielle deliberately placed foolish people around to harm her, having such scheming mind at such a young age, truly worthy of being the Villainess. Having experienced sufferings by her sister Mielle, she had to be extremely cautious. She let the coachman return alone. Hearing the strange noises from the carriage, she knew something was wrong with it. She sent an attendant to find a new carriage. He left grumbling. Aria was of low birth and was surrounded by such incompetent people. No wonder she was easily harmed by Mielle. While waiting, she visited a jewelry shop with Jessie. Seeing Aria's elegant and graceful manner, the shopkeeper knew she was someone important. Quickly have people bring out the shop's finest pieces. Aria pondered between 2 brooches, unable to make a decision. It was meant to be a gift for Oscar. Ultimately, with the simple reasoning of the higher the price the better, she made her decision, choosing the blue brooch. Aria asked the shopkeeper to also customize several small brooches, drawing the design she wanted on paper. The shopkeeper was surprised as she drew Rouse family crest and recognized her. But the lady before him was definitely different from the rumors, having good taste and graceful. To keep this customer, the shopkeeper gifted Aria a blue sapphire necklace. She looked at the shrewd shopkeeper with delight, telling him she would definitely visit often. Even after her little shopping spree, the carriage didn't arrive, so she decided to have tea while waiting. The remaining attendant seemed idle and was directly sent away by Aria to find a carriage quickly. She was still emotional from the previous incident which almost harmed her. Aria opened the window for fresh air, observing the hustle on the streets. Aria couldn't help but reflect on herself. As she has accepted her noble life, she must stand firm. She absolutely couldn't be pushed into the abyss by Mielle. The Rouse family must pay for their deeds. She suddenly noticed a familiar figure onto the streets. Aria looked closely and recognized him as the mysterious man from last time. At that moment the man looked up, his blue eyes met hers, then he smiled mischievously. Aria's face reddened and her heart raced as she hurriedly pulled the curtains close, unable to compose herself. She still couldn't figure out what this man was up to. His smile gave her a sense of unease and she lost interest even in the tea and snacks Jessie brought. She just wanted to leave this place quickly. Aria tried hard not to think about this man, in the pursuit of her revenge, and she couldn't afford to have distracting thoughts or feelings. Just as Aria was boarding her carriage, a bunch of flowers was knocked to the ground. She turned and to her surprise the same man picked them up. The two destined people met again. Since changing time, unexpected events kept occurring, she thought. The man offered her flowers, thanking Aria. Thanks to her guidance he was able to protect his precious treasure. Aria was somewhat disdainful. She assumed he was some fallen noble, but with his aggressive manner he was hard to ignore, and this attitude change was too dramatic. Finding something off, Aria showed a cold expression but couldn't refuse the man offering her flowers, kneeling on one knee. She inquired about the man's background but only got a name, Asher. She asked her attendant to check the flowers and only relaxed after finding nothing unusual with them. Just as Aria was leaving, Asher offered a kiss on the hand as farewell and also to apologize for the previous incident. Aria refused without even a thought. While getting in the carriage, she deliberately dropped the flowers and stepped on them several times. Looking at the crushed flowers, Aria pretended to look distressed. Asher was somewhat surprised, then burst into laughter. Having wanted to see Asher embarrassed seeing such a reaction, instead Aria was somewhat disappointed but also became increasingly curious about his identity. At dusk, Aria returned to the mansion by carriage, unexpectedly learning that the previous coachman had food poisoning. She knew this was no accident, it must have been deliberately done by Mielle's lackeys. John mentioned that there were also problems with the previous carriage's parts, writing it would definitely have led to an accident. Aria casually praised him, sending him away with a reward. It seems she made the right decision about stealing Oscar, only this would drive Mielle to madness and guide her down the path of villainy, exposing her true nature. But Mielle has too many accomplices. The mansion was full of people loyal to her. Aria planned to use her mother's influence to eliminate the problem, so she told her mother everything about the carriage incident. Her mother was extremely furious, immediately gathering everyone to severely punish the coachman. Panicking, the coachman couldn't defend himself. Aria quickly fanned the flames on the side, pointing the blame to Butler as he was in charge of such matters. The butler immediately acknowledged his mistake. All servants followed his orders, so it was dereliction of duty on his part. Among the servants, the butler had a different kind of position, holding some authority, so Aria knew she couldn't eliminate the butler. Instead, she should win him over, so she found excuses to help cover for him. Stating that someone deliberately bypassed the butler, Aria looked towards Mielle, who was terrified. Aria pressed the matter, planning to call the guard. Mielle, afraid of her scheme failing and being implicated, stated that even if Aria had an accident it wouldn't be fatal. Aria caught the slip in her words immediately, asking, "How did you know what kind of accident would happen? Could it be everything is related to you?" Mielle began to stammer. Emma, the maid standing beside her, quickly whispered something. After listening, Mielle had an idea and skillfully diffused the situation. She said it makes her sad just thinking that something could have really happened to her sister and she wouldn't be standing here. Then, changing her tone, she added that even if nothing happened, she was extremely worried for her sister. She hugged her mother, putting on a pitiful act. Mielle felt uneasy as after a series of interactions she noticed that her sister had completely changed. She was no longer the naive girl from before. Mielle was sure that if she didn't abandon this loyal subordinate now, her carefully crafted image would crumble before everyone's eyes, and no one would trust her anymore. With no other choice left, Mielle had to give in, ending the commotion. At dinner time, Aria sat alone at the table. Furious, Mielle stayed in her room pretending to be unwell. This was Aria's happiest dining moment. As she was enjoying herself, the butler came to report that the jeweler had delivered the gift. His attitude towards Aria had already changed, and he was gradually beginning to side with her. Her mother was about to announce her decision regarding Coachman case, so Aria hurried to inspect the goods. Looking at the exquisite brooch, it far exceeded her expectations. Then her mother gathered the servants to announce her judgment. The coachman who left his post without permission was demoted, and the one who replaced him without authorization was dismissed. Mielle felt dizzy and quickly pretended to be unwell. She thought she could leave like this, but unexpectedly Aria stopped her. She instructed Jessie to bring out a sapphire necklace amid everyone's gasps and gave it to Mielle. Annie, a maid standing nearby, was secretly surprised that Lady Aria could be so generous. Seeing Mielle's awkward expression, Aria personally put the necklace on her sister. Annie was filled with envy while Mother just watched this happily. After giving some instructions, she turned and left. Aria went to enjoy afternoon tea in her room. She desperately hoped that the coachman who had lost his backing would chop off Mielle's head. Then she thought of Mielle's personal maid Emma. She was always giving Mielle ideas. She must also have something to do with her death back then. So she planned to use greedy maid Annie to investigate Emma. But right now, there was something more important she needs to do. Writing a letter to Oscar, she immediately had Jessie send it out along with some gifts. Then she casually turned over the hourglass. Suddenly Jessie once again repeated their earlier conversation. Aria looked at her shocked. This conversation just happened a few minutes ago. Confused, she noticed that the pen she had put down and the letter she had sent out had returned intact in her hand. Aria thought she was hallucinating. She just sent the letter. When she looked back at her desk, she found everything was untouched. It was like she has never written a letter. Aria found it strange but felt drowsy and went to sleep. She woke up the next day at noon. Jessie brought her juice so help her feel awake. Aria hadn't expected to sleep for so long, so she glanced at the hourglass suspiciously. She casually turned it over again and something magical happened. Jessie was suddenly standing behind her, and the juice she had just finished was now full again. A crazy thought emerged. Perhaps she has returned to the past once again. She recalled her previous actions and instantly deduced that it was the work of the hourglass. It had taken her back a few minutes in time. Smiling, she looked at it, and after continuous attempts she finally mastered how to activate it. She figured that it could be used only once per day and could only go back 5 minutes in time. However, this was enough for her to play with, like venting her dissatisfaction with the tutor, then turning reversing time, showering the tutor with false praises. But such a power also came with its limitation. It put a great strain onto her body. But Aria disregarded all the side effects. The power it provided her was simply too tempting. She began her life filled with petty minutes of mischief tormenting Mielle. She poured water on her head and deliberately tripped her. Mielle's cries for help echoed throughout the mansion, but Aria felt no fear. She could always use the hourglass to reverse time and erasing the incident itself. This became a source of entertainment in her boring life. 2 whole weeks passed since Aria sent a letter to Oscar, but he hadn't responded to her yet. Aria recalled what the attendant had said. Although Oscar had accepted the gift and the letter, but she never received a reply. Perhaps it was because final exams were approaching. Considering the attendant's tireless efforts, Aria casually offered some words of comfort. After all, Oscar had accepted her gift, which mattered more. Although the content of the letter might make him reluctant, making connections was still a good strategy. But Aria was still feeling anxious and even considered using the hourglass to win him over. In the midst of anxiety, Oscar's reply finally came.